you know, in the been on the road. So I'm here and I am parked, right? Maybe I shouldn't have parked here because a lot of vehicles behind me. Maybe I should go find another area. There's a lot of traffic that'll be passing behind me. So don't be distracted by the traffic. Okay. But what I was talking about is just being going into 2026, being who you truly are, right? Being true to yourself, being true to who you really are, really not conforming to who people think you should be or who you think people want you to be. Because when you are authentic and true to yourself, you're able to be free, right? You can live freely. And there is peace that comes with that. Like when you're trying to pretend and you're trying to be someone you're not, and you're always transforming and conforming and, changing based on who you are around. That's not a place. That's not a place I would want to live, but that's not a healthy place to live in, right? When you're always transforming and changing into someone who you're not. But what I was saying is you have to go back to your childhood, right? Before children, before marriage, because a lot of us, like I said before in my other video, before I had to take it down, a lot of us lose ourselves and we lose our identity. A lot of women, we don't know who we are outside of being a mother, outside of being a wife. Like, a lot of women do not have an identity outside of that. Like, we've been trained and we've been programmed to think that we are not valuable outside of being a mother and a wife. And we have to understand everyone is not called to be a wife. Everyone is not called to be a mother. Right? And I know what the world says. I know what people and how society says. But it's just not possible for everyone to be that. Like, society has different types of rules, right? And I just don't live by society's rules. I don't make people feel bad because they say they decided they don't want to have children, or they say they decided they didn't want to be married. I don't make people feel like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Because you don't want to have something got to be wrong with you if you don't want to get married or have kids. No, that's that person's decision. I've met several people who told me they didn't want children. They're married, but they didn't want children. Their partner and them decided they didn't want children. And they're waiting for me to, have a consumption like society does, right? They're waiting for me to have a consumption. And I'm looking at them like, that's your choice. That's a smart choice. If you know you don't want to have kids, don't have kids. Like, some people don't know how to allow people to be independent, right? I just don't. I never been that way, like to where, I go with the flow, right? I go with the flow. I go with the crowd. And I know sometimes that make people, a lot of people, that make people envy you when you don't go with the crowd, when you don't group think all the time, when you have a mind of your own, when you don't think like your culture, when you don't think like like when you don't think like the group, people tend to have a problem with that, right? And this is why it's important to become yourself, right? This is why it's important to become yourself, right? So, when like I said in my other video that I took down, when I wrote my book, I got a book called Broken But Not Destroyed, Piecing Her Together. I was just coming into my identity, because society will tell you, like I said, that you're nothing else. You're nothing, right? You don't have any value if you're not a wife. You don't have any value if you're not a mom. Like, everyone is not designed to be a wife and a mom, right? People are called to do other things. People are called to be, spiritual moms. People are called to be, moms to children who lost their moms, lost their parents, right? And I remember when I wrote my book, Broken But Not Destroyed, I felt in my spirit that the Holy Spirit was telling me, God was telling me, you were not broken. Your mindset and your process and how you thought was broken, right? You had a broken system. You had a broken thinking process, right? So I had to reckon with that. Although the book, I felt God gave me that book, and I could look at it now as a spiritual thing, like my mindset was broken. The way I only could see, this is why it's good to forgive yourself. You're only able to carry out different things based on the information you were given, based on what you were taught. That's why it's good to forgive yourself. I talked to someone the other day, and I was talking to them, and we were talking about different situations, a situation between them and I. And I had to let them know that just because I made quite a few mistakes in my ignorance, right? That means I just didn't know. But just because a person make a mistake in their ignorance and they didn't know, that don't mean that you don't take accountability for it. That doesn't mean that you don't own what you have done. Even in my ignorance, I still have to take full accountability and responsibility for what I've done, whatever it is. Because sometimes people will try to blame it on, circumstances and mental health issues. Even if you do have a mental health breakdown, you still accountable. You are accountable for what you've done. One thing I've learned and how I, got through challenges and difficulties in life, I learned to assume full responsibility for what I've done. I learned to, assume full responsibility and accountability for what I've done. Hence, that's why we have this channel, the Responsibility Channel. No one can make me feel no type of way because I'm going to own up to what I've done. But I'm not going to take accountability for something I didn't do. There is a saying in the Bible that even says, agree with your adversary quickly. Agree with them quickly. Right? You have to agree with them quickly. Because sometimes people want you to try to deny things so they can have like a gotcha moment on you. But when you say, you know what, although in that time I was unlearned, I was ignorant, I didn't know if that hurt you or not. I didn't know X, Y, and Z. Now, I'm not saying, see, what I'm not going to do is apologize for truth, because people want you to apologize for what's true. I'm not going to apologize for that. I stand on truth regardless. But back to what I was saying, like, even if you say, in my ignorance, X, Y, Z, I did this, I did that, but I still take accountability. I still did it and it was wrong. I shouldn't have done it. When you do that, that give people like, if they want to continue to try to hold things over your head, that's them. But that give people room. When you're genuine about that thing, that give them no room to try to hold something over your head. Because sometimes people they want to have something to keep you always subservient to them, begging and pleading for their forgiveness. People want that, but I'm not going to do that, because I own up to it, apologize, and I move on. That's when you have grown. That's when you understand, right? That's when you have an understanding. But you have to be yourself. You have to be yourself. You have to learn who you are authentically, outside of being a wife, outside of being a mother, outside of being a servant to everyone else. Some of you all don't know nothing else but to serve and to be there for people. And no one is there for you. No one is checking on you, but you know how to give. You know how to serve. You know how to always be there for people. And people take advantage of that. People take advantage when you are that people pleaser. Because there's a difference between being a servant and then being a people pleaser. Because when you're a people pleaser, you're only doing it so they won't get upset with you. You're only doing it so they can keep including you. You're only doing it for applause and likes and affirmation. But when you are a true servant, you will do it and don't expect nothing in return. You're not even thinking about it. When you do it, you don't even think about it anymore. You forget all about it. People have to remind you what you have done. But in 2026, if it's the Lord's will, you have to become and be who God has intended for you to be. That is where your blessing is. Your blessing is in your authenticity. Your blessing is in you being authentic, being you. And some people don't know who you really are. Some people don't know who you really are because you have tried to be everything you thought they wanted you to be. Because you wanted to be accepted by them. You wanted to be included. And that's one thing I'm not going to do. I used to do that foolishness out of being a people pleaser. I don't do that anymore. And when you learn, see, that's what happened. When you learn who you are, you develop a love for yourself that you're not going to subject yourself to people who don't respect your boundaries. You're not going to subject yourself. I'm working on a project, right? And it has to do with boundaries. When you set boundaries, right? That is a form of love for yourself. When you don't have boundaries, you don't love yourself. Because when you don't have boundaries, you let people talk to you crazy. You let them treat you any type of way, and you still run behind them, trying to show them that you know that you're that person, or that you're a godly person, that you got a good heart. No, you'll still try to run behind them, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you'll try to run behind them. Oh, I'm a good person. I'm that person. No, because when you love yourself, when you see that foolishness, you'll give them one chance. But you see this repeated foolishness, you'll cut that off so quick. You'll fall back so quick. I fall back so quick now, you'll think I the one invented that trust fall. Remember that guy? I think he was a college guy. Well, he just run up to these random people. Y'all got to catch this spiritually though. Yeah, when he run up to these random people and trust fall, and he was a big old dude too. I'll run too. I wouldn't let that joker fall on me. But I fall back so quick, you would think I invented that. Okay, trust fall ordeal. I fall back so quick because when you value your time, and when you care and love yourself, you won't let people waste your time. I wasted a lot of time with so many different people trying to prove to them that I'm for them, that I got their back, that I'm loyal. No, I don't do that foolishness no more. If you can't see, that means you blind. If you can't see that I'm loyal and I'm in your corner without me jumping through all these different hoops and flipping over like I'm some type of, performance animal, then you're not my person. You're not a friend. People don't have, see, what I don't like to deal with, I don't like to deal with people who don't have the spirit of discernment. Because if you can't recognize a good spirit, that's on you. If you got trust issues, it's not my job to convince you that I'm a good person. You just gonna miss out. And I don't spin the block. I don't spin the block unless people have a sit down to where, they explain, at this time I wasn't in a good place. Because I know I have not been in a good place before. But I don't treat people wrong and then try to go around without having a conversation and try to ease back in their good graces after I don't, did whatever to them. No. But this is what happens when you learn to be, and when you become your authentic self. When you become your authentic self, you develop a love for yourself that is undeniable. And it's not a prideful type of love. It's a love that teaches people how to treat you, because you treat people how you want to be treated. And sometimes people will still come sideways to you. And that's when you got to have boundaries. That's when you have to fall back like that guy who created that little ordeal, trust fall. I fall back so quick because I'm not going to deal with nobody, and I don't have the energy and time to deal with people in their foolishness. I just don't have the time. And when you don't have the time, you will not deal and put up with certain situations. You will have boundaries, healthy boundaries. That's why people hate those who have boundaries. When people realize you have boundaries and you're not going to tolerate things, you will be hated. And that's another thing. When you finally be your authentic self and you walk in that boldly, you're not going to be liked by a lot of people. When I was rejected, that used to bother me. When I was when I had my little rejected soul, little rejected spirit, and before I got delivered, that used to bother me. How I didn't do nothing to people, and they used to just reject me. They used to just didn't want to deal with me, like, do I smell or something? And I'm just coming, giving them good energy, speaking, being welcoming, because I just have that communal personality where I'm at welcome everyone in. And I was so, gullible and oblivious to, like, and I didn't understand people in their little nefarious acts, how they used to just be all devilish. I didn't really because I didn't come. When you don't come and you don't operate in that deceitful, manipulative, demonic energy, you're not coming with that. You're not looking for that. That's where we get caught up. Good spirited people, we looking for the good in people. You looking for the good in that demon. Right? You looking for a good in that demon. And that person is a whole spirit. And you trying to find the good in them because that's who you are. You trying to long suffer with a person that's dealing with so many dark entities. You're not God, so you can't deliver them. Okay, and you're just trying to, you trying to bring all your good spirit, thinking you could change people, and people will that's a huge dog. You trying to bring your good energy, thinking people is gonna give you what you give them. No, that's not true. Because people are dealing with their own stuff. And when they see someone that's joyous, got a bubbly spirit, that's energetic and happy, if they don't have that, they gonna look. They gonna you know what I'm saying? Like, if they don't have that, they gonna be mad with you. Why she so happy? Why she so joyous? She don't see this economy, people struggling, and she around here happy. Like, people will actually get upset because you come and you're doing the work to be thankful. And it ain't got nothing to do with what's going on around you. It has everything to do with what you put in you. What you do to get yourself in that happy place. And they're not willing to do that work. This is what happens when you start walking into your authenticity. When you start walking in your authenticity, right? When you start walking and becoming truly who you are and you working on that. People see, one thing about people, what I've learned, they want what other people, but they're not willing to sacrifice and do what other people are doing. I was like that at one time. I had to grow up. I was younger. I was a lot younger. And I didn't have a whole lot of, I won't say guidance, because my grandmother and them, they did what they could do, But I didn't have a whole lot of knowing and understanding I didn't have a lot of discipline at that time. I could say that. In order to get something and be successful, there are sacrifices you have to make. And I thought just because I wanted something, I'll just